What's going on, fellow A-Plusers? It's your boy Adam Perez. I'm back once again, this time with another movie review. As we're gonna get into Madam Web, y'all. That's right. Madam Web wind up dropping on Valentine's Day. It is in fact Friday evening when I'm getting the opportunity to record this. I just got back from this movie, and we have to talk about this film, man. We have to talk about this film. For those of you who don't know, when it comes to Sony Pictures, usually in association with Marvel and their superhero movies, I haven't been too impressed with them, honestly. Venom didn't really care for it. Venom 2 really didn't care for it. Morbius, I mean, that's just a whole nother story to the point to where it almost made me appreciate the first Venom a little bit more. I have not been too kind to Sony superhero films. It's made me start calling them the uh, Sony pictures of mediocrity. Unfortunately, and I was really hoping that something like Madam Web would definitely change that. And unfortunately, the same old, same old. I probably should have known the writing on the wall for this movie when I found out that the writers for Morbius were, in fact, back writing the script for this film. And you can definitely tell for sure. Look, I'm not one that likes to badmouth movies or anything like that. But I honestly felt like this movie was a little bit of a waste of time, to be quite frank with you. I'm not one to tell people not to see a movie. I'm usually the one that's like, look, if you want to see a movie, despite what the reviewers might say, go see the movie for yourself. If you are an AMC Stubs member like myself that just pays a monthly fee and you get the opportunity to go see the film, three free movies practically a week, and you want to go check out Madam Web, absolutely. But if you got to pay your own money to go see this film, do yourselves a favor. Please don't see this movie. If anything, I would certainly say wait to maybe watch it on streaming services. But look, if you wanna spend 2 hours in the theater watching this movie, certainly feel free to. Now, look, let's go ahead and get into this because again, I'm usually not one to badmouth movies so much unless I absolutely have to. And I'm gonna be critical of this film. First and foremost, let me get the positives sort of out of the way for you guys. Dakota Johnson, I enjoyed Dakota Johnson in this. I'm not too familiar with a lot of her other work. I think she was in like 50 Shades of Grey. I'd never seen any of those, and I don't know if she's been in anything else, quite frankly. But for me, she comes across at first in this film very much how like Jessica Jones did for me in the Netflix series. I didn't really care for her as a character. She just kind of rubbed me the wrong way with her personality. But as the movie continued and I learned more about her, she learns more about herself. The company that she keeps kind of changes her a little bit as a person. I definitely started enjoying the Dakota Johnson character in here, Cassandra Webb. So I thought she did a pretty good performance in here. And to be frank with you, I think if there is any inspiring aspect of this movie, it's probably the chemistry between the four ladies. We also have Sydney Sweeney in here playing Julia Cornwall. We've got Isabella Merced playing Anya Corazon, and Celeste O'Connor as Maddie Franklin. I like the chemistry with the three girls. Once Cassandra gets involved, I think that's probably the heart of this film. They do their best, but this movie is really bogged down by terrible script, just a really weak and boring script. The dialogue can be kind of cringy and atrocious, and probably one of the worst sort of superhero villains that I've seen. Like any scene with the villain in is just it's cringy. I actually saw somebody online highlight the idea of like a Batman and Robin sort of comparison. And honestly, I almost think Batman and Robin is much better film than this movie. I mean, this movie is just really just boring. It doesn't really lead anywhere. There's a lot of running, a lot of hiding, and a climax that they really do their best to try and make impactful. But again, when you're really dealing with non of like offensive superpowers, look, if you're looking for costumes in this movie, the costume and the time that the costumes are on screen are all in the trailers. So you're really just dealing almost with just normal individuals having to take out sort of like this superpowered Spider-Man-esque sort of level villain And the way of them having to try and pull this off with just somebody that can kind of glimpse into the future, it just really did not deliver for me when it comes to it. I mean, they attempted to make it as big and bombastic as they could, but it just didn't work. It felt flat. It felt laughable at times, yeah, I just was not a fan of it. So I do think if there was a bright spot, I will give Dakota Johnson and the rest of the girls in here their props. I think their chemistry worked for me certainly at times, but even they unfortunately couldn't help this film. I will say I think one of the brighter spots in this movie is probably, I believe his name is Adam Scott from Parks and Rec. He played Ben Parker in here. Loved him. I needed this man in more of this movie, to be quite frank with you, because when he was on screen, it felt like the most professional scenes I had ever seen in this film. I sat down on my seat. The first 5 minutes were just cringy, terrible dialogue, janky sort of storytelling. And it automatically starts you off on a bad foot, and then it's got to sort of like recover a little bit as you go a little further into this film. The editing I didn't think was too bad in here. I mean, the idea of trying to showcase Cassandra Webb's powers and how you bring that to the big screen, I thought was going to be a pretty difficult job, but I think the editing does a really good job of making that feel, I don't want to say suspenseful, but at least allowing you to see how they work. The idea of seeing the future and then sort of cutting back into present day and her trying to figure out how does she navigate that type of stuff. All of that I think came through with the editing style in here. So that's really the only two positives I have, is like the editing and some of the performances, because again, the performances of the villain were terrible. The soundtrack in here just was not great to me whatsoever, and it just did not feel like a very meaningful movie, and just a really wasted opportunity sort of thing. I know Madam Web, the idea of like we're making a Madam Web movie, like she's probably one of them, like the least popular or even well-known superhero in the Spider-Man verse. But the fact that they went to go give it a shot, I'm not mad at them for it, but I do think if you're going to use somebody like a Madam Web, you got to have a great certain like story in mind and find a way to work around it. This just felt very lazy, cut, copy, and paste, and doesn't do anything for the comic book movie industry, unfortunately. And so, again, I'm not one to wish any company to fail. I've always been a believer that when it comes to, look, making movies is not easy. Making a good movie is even harder. But this almost felt very much like, and look, I don't want to disrespect the people that did put forth effort, but this just felt like a money grab to me, honestly. Just something that they wanted to put out and see how it would do, which is a little bit of a shame because, again, the four women in here, I thought they certainly did their part to try and make the script as best as it could, and unfortunately even their performances in here couldn't do that for me. So yeah, man, if you want to see this film, see it, but I would fear, again, if you're paying out of your own pocket, wait for this movie to hit streaming services for sure, because I do think it's getting to the point now when it comes to Sony, and I'll be interested to see what Kraven the Hunter does lately, but it is coming to the point to Sony where it's just like people have to sort of show them with their wallets that we do not want to see these films anymore, or at least start recognizing that you need to put more effort into them by giving us better writers and better directors and people that actually have a meaningful ideas that they want to go ahead and put to the big screen for some of these characters, because there's no reason for a lot of these great sort of Spider-Man characters to be falling to the wayside like this time and time again. So we'll see what Kraven the Hunter winds up doing later this year, but for me, Madam Web just wasn't it, y'all. But look, I will say this: if there is anything that I can give Sony an A+ for, it is consistently giving me crappy superhero movies. Good job, you've graduated, A+, y'all. But other than that, nah, this movie ain't it. But look, at the end of the day, these are just my A+ opinions. I want to know yours. Let your thoughts be known in the comment section box below. But until then, do me a big favor, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep it A+. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.